Welcome everybody to a very light touch presentation for Disguise's virtual production suite. In this presentation, I'll go over what we do as a company, what virtual production is, who I am, and how this new technology sort of fits into the world of entertainment. So I'll give you a little bit about my background. I come from a feature film industry, so specifically at DreamWorks Animation, worked there for over 12 years. Actually, I helped set up the DreamWorks campus in Bangalore in 2009. I was one of the first 10 people there. And then I've done some interesting projects with Verizon, specifically around 5G technology and telecom infrastructure and how that's used for media. And last but not least, I have done my fellowship at Epic, and I'm an Unreal Engine fellow. A little bit about Disguise's history and heritage. Disguise has a wonderful history in the live events musician world. Basically, any big show that you've seen in the last 10 years, whether it's Beyonce or Halsey or Ed Sheeran, Coldplay, U2, you name it, and chances are it was probably powered by Disguise technology. Here's just some of our creds up here. We've also done a ton of other spaces. Theatrical is a huge one for us on Broadway. And then the other big vertical for us is fixed installations. So like if you go to Las Vegas or Dubai, you'll see these immense spectacular displays. A lot of that is powered by Disguise technology. And we are a Epic Mega Grant recipient and a very close partner of Unreal Engine. We work with them almost on a day-to-day basis. As you'll see down the presentation, their engine integrates super well into our technology suite. Epic is a minority owner in Disguise as well. So why use Disguise for virtual production? And I'll go through what virtual production is as it's defined today. Well, there's really like the main headline is that virtual production is still incredibly difficult as an engineering project. It's a feat in engineering to get all of these different components to talk together. You're talking about cameras, LED volume, audio. Sometimes you'll have lighting, DMX controls, lensing. All of these things have to talk to each other, work together. In the end, it turns out it's extremely difficult, but we make all of that difficulty really easy. So all you have to do as a creator is just make your movie or make your film or make your event. You don't have to do the heavy lifting of that integration. We consider ourselves the platform of platforms. So, in the media and entertainment landscape, there's hundreds of technology solutions. Here's just some that I've thrown up on the screen here. You have tons of different NVIDIA GPUs. You have Unreal Engine. You have Notch video playback. You have the camera systems from Red and Ari. And you have the LED controller from Brompton. And then you have the camera tracking technology from NCAM and Stipe. And all of those things, they're not really universally plug and play. They don't like to talk to each other, as it turns out. But over the last decade, Disguise has put in the engineering infrastructure so that it's a central universal hub for all of these technologies and many more. And that list continues to grow. At the heart and soul of our ecosystem is our hardware. We have two different types of servers, and those servers complement each other for live events and musicians, as well as the XR workflow, which is what we use for virtual production. The XR workflow is special in that it creates an augmented reality layer on front of the backplate. And here are just some of our product ranges. Just quickly gloss over this. We don't want to get too much into the details here. We have the RX nodes, which are render nodes. They're, in this case of virtual production, used specifically for Unreal Engine rendering. If you want to push an Unreal scene onto an LED volume, you can't just do it with one homemade computer. It turns out you need to push an incredible amount of pixels on it in real time. And so you're going to need a series of servers, and those servers have to be coordinated and talk to each other. And that's what we do. We build those RX nodes exactly for that. And then the VX nodes for us is the main hub, which controls the video input and then processes that input into a format that the LED processor can recognize. And at the same time, it's adding a lot of different layers of our own technology on top of it, things like color accuracy, color calibration, frustum rendering, and a whole lot of optimization stuff that, you know, just makes things easy for you as a content creator. I want to spend a little bit of time on this flow chart here just to give you a glimpse of how a disguise system is set up and how a virtual production would be set up using our technology. So on the left bottom is those RX nodes that I was talking about. You would have a stack of them, and they would act as one cohesive render unit, even though there is 5 or 10 different servers at the same time. And all of those servers are connected via our Fabric network, which is an incredibly high-speed, high-bandwidth network that can capture the render and then send out commands to render the next frame. In this case, we're using Unreal Engine, but we can also support Unity. We also support Notch. Those are the other 2 game engines. And then once the render is complete, it goes to our VX servers where it gets composited onto the camera image, and then it gets formatted in such a way that the LED processor can handle it. And the entire thing is controlled by our software called Designer. And in Designer, you can actually build out your project. You know, if you have pyro, for example, fireworks, or you have lighting in terms of DMX controlled lights, or you have camera focus pulls with servo motors, all of that could be dialed in and pre-programmed, so you have complete control over it beforehand. And the nice thing is with Unreal Engine, you don't just load it and let the disguise system throw it on the screen. You can actually have real-time control over the scene. So you can have an Unreal technical artist on the side changing things like lights and objects on set, and that change will within a few seconds be reflected on screen. So it's very much an interactive process. On a set, if the director wants a tree to be moved 2 feet to the right, that's actually really easy to do in our system. Not so much with some other virtual production technology stacks. Some of the big highlights of the disguise virtual production capabilities. One thing that is incredibly frustrating on set is how much time it takes to calibrate the stage, specifically the camera, the lens, and the LED volume and the color. And in disguise, you can do it in under 4 hours. It seems like a long time, but typically it takes almost a whole day. So you're losing production time with your crew there. And this cannot be done beforehand. This has to be done right before a shoot. The other neat thing about disguise is, like I was saying, we come from 10 plus years of doing live events, which means our stuff is bulletproof. Both hardware and software have gone through the whole range of on-road torture that it has gone through. And because of that, we have iterated on it. And it's just to a point now where we feel very comfortable that it's production ready for the most prolific of feature films. And then the other last thing I wanted to mention is the pixel quality depends when you're looking at an LED display through a camera. The pixel quality depends on how the pixel of the Unreal scene is matched to the pixel on the LED display. In disguise, that mapping is done pixel to pixel, so you get incredibly sharp images inside your camera, which is called the in-camera VFX. Just a quick visual to show you a virtual production set. This is a frame store set, and obviously they were using a disguise system. So you could see the actress is standing on a practical set. That set on the floor is real. It's real dirt and real moss. And, it's set dressed to look like a forest. And then you could see where the LED display starts. It has a more bluish tinge to it because this is just a photograph. But when you're actually looking through a camera at this actress and you see the synthetic trees behind her, and then you pan down to the real grass by her feet, you won't notice that difference in synthetic versus real because of the color profile. And that has been dialed in so the physical matches the digital. A quick example of a commercial done using disguise technology on a virtual stage. There was no on-set filming for this commercial. This is just a quick 14-second clip of it.
Curiosity. Curiosity leads to discovery. Us the drop.
Great. So just playing back again, I'm going to pause on a frame here. So that animation of the lights flickering and that sort of deep road growing past you and having that sense of depth, that's all done digitally, most likely in Unreal Engine. And where the extras are sitting on that stool, that's probably where the stage ends and the display begins, and the rest of it is digital. So like this entire street, you can't tell where that transition happens. And that's all because it's just a clever exercise in digital set building, practical set building, color consistency, and lighting consistency. Want to switch gears now to industry standardization. What I was saying earlier is still true, that a lot of technologies in this space aren't talking to each other yet. For example, a red camera, throws out a certain type of metadata that may not work with the camera tracking system, and so on and so forth. This is the case now, but we hope that in the next few years that this is resolved and there are some true industry standards for some of these virtual production technologies. And disguise plays a huge part in this. We formed our own alliance called the XR and VP Alliance. We're active members of SMPTE, of VES, and SIGGRAPH, and most industries in this space. We have our hand in because we want to make sure that we're abiding by industry standards and that we're helping write these standards for everybody else, so we can all sort of play in the same ballpark. Here's another example of a virtual production execution. This is a studio in Korea, and this is we call it a car shoot. Any vehicle shoot is extremely, it's an extremely easy proposition in virtual production, mainly from cost savings point of view. So if you take a car to middle of New York City, middle of Manhattan, and you block out that street for a whole day, and I don't know, it runs over, now you have to block it out for another day, you're spending millions of dollars. You can just take that car onto a BP stage and then throw up digital Manhattan on the sky, on the panels, and you have all day to shoot that thing. You can control the time of day, you can control if it's raining, if there's traffic, if there's no traffic, and you have incredible amount of creative control. That's a no-brainer for virtual production. We like to think that any car sets and car shoots are sort of the gateway to virtual production. Going through some of our partner stages around the world. Disguise is based in London in the UK, but we have our presence in all regions, APAC, EMEA, North America, and Australia. Here, these are the two big spaces that were recently put together, MELS in Montreal and NGX in Turkey. you have a human there for scale, you can see how incredibly large those spaces are, and how much you can actually do in a space like that. And we have these two other partners in Korea and LA, and they are actively working with us on testing some of our products, helping us develop better workflows, and it's a wonderful relationship we have with all of them. If we count all of our fixed installations and music venue stages, then we're at these numbers below. It's quite a bit of clients and customers, but we're super proud of our deployment. And this number is a little outdated. This number continues to grow every day, and Disguise is at a point where we don't see this stopping anytime soon. We only see growth ahead of us. Big announcement recently, we just partnered up with a Spanish studio called Orca, and they have built a Mandalorian style stage. When we say Mandalorian, I think it refers to the size. They're incredibly large with a ceiling panel for lighting and a practical floor. So that's the formula that the Mandalorian creators have used, and Orca has taken up on that as well. So what happens after you build a stage and you've invested in Disguise, and now you have clients coming through and your stage is being used and you're making these incredible pieces of content? Great. So how do we do this? So Disguise has incredible support. We have a whole support staff that is deployed globally, and we have the ability to send in hardware when there's a fire, when it's needed. We have the ability to send in operators and support personnel to your shoot to make sure that you never see downtime. If you're not sure if you want to invest the time and resource in building a stage, then we also have project management, where we will spec out what your needs are. We will then help you with your budget. And of course, we'll project manage the entire execution to the time you walk in and that stage is ready to go for your shoot. And that's all I have for today. It's a very light touch on everything Disguise, but I'm of course open to any further detailed discussions. As a matter of fact, I love them. So please, look for me on LinkedIn or on the Disguise website. Thank you.
Yeah. So Addy, that was a fascinating presentation. Please stay on, and if you could switch off your presentation and we can get into a chat with each other, if it's okay with you.
Sounds good. Yeah.
So, what elements of Disguise excite creative and technical professionals in live events, production, virtual production? What elements really excite them?
I think the real-time nature of it, specifically that you can make changes quickly. So for example, if you don't like the way a light is hitting an actor, you can program it so it could be a different color at a different timing, or if the background is not suiting your style, you instantly make that change.
Fantastic. And so in terms of in Los Angeles, who are the directors who work with some of the names who work with Disguise Productions?
So our clients work with the directors, and they, that's their clients. We provide, like I was showing you, we provide the technology to the stages, and that's sort of where our handoff is.
I understand, but could you name some of them, if you don't mind?
I'm sorry, I actually don't know any off the top of my head. Yeah.
Okay, and what are the reasons that demand for solutions provided by Disguise? Why are the demand for these solutions growing now?
That's a great question. To be honest, I think a lot of it has to do with the pandemic and the restrictions on travel, where studios and content creators realize that they still have to make the content without going places. And virtual production was just at a point where it was ready to use. And with the successful shows like Mandalorian, that was really the part where everybody was, thinking, okay, this is ready for prime time. However, Disguise has been doing this for 10 years. And so it was a matter for us to just take over our tool sets and transition them and have them ready for film and TV.
All right. So you've done large scale live events, productions for, professionals and musicians like Pink, like Beyonce. So how does the artist, I know there are clients, some of these you all could have provided the project management for. Some of these could have been done by your people who offer the solutions, who you probably don't know, like you said earlier. So how does the artist react with this kind of solution that you're offering? What does it take for an artist to get comfortable with it?
I think from what I hear, most of them love it. They wholly believe in having the ability to control the environment around them to create a better experience for their fans, right? So the artist would work with the production company, and the production company would lease out the stage or the technology. That's typically how that would work. And the assets, whether it's video plates or Unreal sets, those things get built from the spec that the artists create, right? So to their taste, to their creative is what gets built around you.
So pricing wise, how does it work out for a production? Well, how much percentage would be taken up by this particular, specific tool that you provide?
Right. I think the production will pay per day or, whatever time allocation for the stage. And that's probably how it would work out.
Well, I get it, but let's say, would it be 20% of the production costs, or would it be 10% in a normal production?
I understand. Okay. So digital asset creation in general is typically not the entire production budget. It's a very small part of it. And we fall in under the visual effects digital part of that production.
So any number?
I mean, if I were to throw it out, I would say 20% or so sounds accurate. Yeah.
Okay. So how does one go about setting up a design stage? What are the elements needed for it? I know you talked about the media servers, you need space. So how does one go about doing it?
Absolutely. I mean, look, it's no different than a sound stage. In the beginning, you need a space where you have the infrastructure, the power, the cooling, the network. Once you secure that space, then we have partners that will build the LED volume for you. A lot of them are typically rented from big companies like Fuse and Row, and you can, if you want, you can buy them. They're a little bit more expensive. Once you have your LED volume, then you want to connect that to an LED controller. That's another piece that you can buy or rent. We don't make that part either. And then after that, everything else Disguise comes in with, right? So it's the piece that connects to the LED controller that you'll see up on the display. So we make the servers, the software, that runs Unreal Engine and that connects to that ecosystem.
So how much space would that take? Would it take with the entire hardware and infrastructure that you have, apart from the LED, the volume, and how much space would the Disguise product take?
That's a great question. I think 1 or 2 racks at most. It's not that much room, and maybe 1 console with 2 users. It's not a very elaborate setup. What will dictate that setup is how big your LED volume is, right? So if you have a Mandalorian size volume, you're talking about billions of pixels, and to support something like that, you're going to need 2 or 3 racks full of RX servers.
Okay, and how does it work with the Disguise production unit, which is at the back, and you have the director in front, you have the artist. So there's a lot of talk back going on.
Yeah, so the Disguise production unit is typically that of the studio, of the stage, right? If it could be, your XR stage or PRG, something like that. They have training operators that will use the Disguise system. Their job is to just execute. And when the director says go, they go. They're running the Unreal servers. They're putting things up on the display. They're just doing their job. In a very successful production, you won't even notice they're there.
Great. So how do you compare with other solutions which are available in the market?
I think a lot of solutions are great at one particular thing, but they're not the hub. They're not the universal sort of hub that Disguise is. So that's where we come in. We speak all languages for all of these technology companies, and as far as getting their equipment to work with one another.
Basically, they talk to each other pretty well.
Yeah. Well, the Disguise sits in the middle. It's the hub in the hub and spoke, and everything else sort of just comes to our technology.
So you were talking about industry standardization. Where is it at right now?
It's in its infancy. It's we have standardization with color. For example, we all agree that ACES color is something that the film industry uses a lot, or Rec 2020 and Rec 709 is something we have come out of. Color spaces are heavily standardized. And then a lot of broadcast interfaces like SDI and HDMI and DisplayPort, those things are incredibly standardized. But as far as camera metadata, lens metadata, LED processor formats, those kinds of things that are a little bit more new, I don't think they haven't been there. They need to be worked on.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, coming down to pricing, in terms of, we've seen it being used in more evolved markets, like which invest in high quality stages like Korea, like LA. I saw blue dot on India. What is that? And how did that pan out? How did that come about? And what's the pricing like for India?
The blue dot is most likely a fixed install. So the fixed installs tend to be things that go into corporate or hotel lobbies. It's just very small scale things. For those, the pricing is probably, US dollars, south of $100,000, something like that will get you a Disguise system. But you have to keep in mind that when you build a solution with displays, Disguise is maybe only 20% of that cost. Most of that cost is the LED technology.
All right. So what about the solo solutions you talked about for smaller productions? How expensive are these? You have massive stages, you have massive scale, and then you have the solo productions for smaller budget projects.
Absolutely. Yeah. We, at Disguise, we have our own stages and they're on the smaller size. And I think that is really the segment that is going to grow and explode over the next 5 to 10 years is the smaller stage, because content creators are so savvy, they're so smart, they're going to figure out how to do big things with a small space. For that, I think India is a prime market. You don't need a lot of infrastructure, you don't need a lot of initial investment, but there's a lot of hungry content creators in India that will find extremely good use cases for those things.
So what would the pricing range for that be for the smaller solo project stages?
So like I said, the LED volume, if it could range somewhere between $200,000 or so, 300,000. And out of that, maybe 20% of it is the Disguise cost.
Fantastic. So that seems pretty affordable actually for the Indian market as compared to the other products which you were talking about, the larger massive scale products that we were talking and solutions. So I think you've got a game coming in really into India.
Yeah, we're excited. Hey, I want to go back. I built the DreamWorks stage over 10 years ago. Now I want to come back and build Disguise stages there. One of the things I will note, Anil, is every technology as it scales gets cheaper, right? We saw this with cell phones and cars and everything. LED display technology is going to go through that, no doubt, no question. So what is $200,000 today will be $100,000 in a few years.
And then over what time period can this cost be amortized? Over how, is it a five-year time range that you can get your costs? You can start making profits on the stage?
Right. I mean, that's obviously going to depend on how many productions utilize it and what their cost savings are per production, right? So if you're in the middle of New York City and all you're doing is Manhattan car shoots, then that amount is adding up very quickly. But if the stage is sitting still and not being utilized, then you don't see an ROI very soon. I would say, within the first year or two, it's going to start to make sense and, financially be a no-brainer.
Fantastic, great. And is there enough of financing available from your side? Like you have in some companies where you have financial support coming in for people who want to venture into this?
I'm not sure, but I'm not going to say no. That's something that maybe we would be open to. But if you have anybody that's interested in financing disguise systems, definitely have them come talk to me, and I will link them up to the right people.
Great. Thank you. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, Adi. I think it's been it's an eye opener for me, the kind of solutions you offer, and wish you all the best on your trip to setting up more disguise stages in India.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. And it was really nice chatting with you, Anil. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Adi.